This story that I picked out is called Some Psychopath is Trying to Become TikTok Famous at the Expense of My Daughter. The world of TikTok and Snapchat and what other emerging social media platforms that my 11-year-old daughter watches has always been something I found as being childish and didn't interest me much. However, when online news media outlets like Yahoo and MSN would derive their stories from TikTok, then I said, why not, and at least give TikTok a try. I was pleasantly surprised by TikTok on its numerous topics. People post about everything from cats to military to crime video posts. Some of the posts on TikTok I do find childish, but eventually TikTok has filtered them out and honed in on the things a 38-year-old guy likes, like true crime mysteries. I love watching videos on people who have mysteriously vanished or grainy footage of unknown suspects who've never been caught. So given that my daughter has just left a few hours ago for a weekend retreat at Girl Scout camp, I decided to indulge on TikTok. The old Girl Scout leader, Macy, has gotten diagnosed with cancer, so she had to regrettably step down, but thankfully another mother has volunteered to step in as the new leader. With my now separated wife, Sheila, who is still trying to find herself, I'm just happy that my daughter, Grace, has something to do this weekend, rather than just mope around the house, feeling depressed. The new leader, Carol, was nice enough to pick up Grace along with her own daughter, Rachel, another girl named Amanda, and drove them to a campground in the Bongos. Carol showed me one of her years of being involved in a Girl Scout, so I'm going to do nothing more than relax this weekend. I started to swipe through TikTok videos and find most crime-related posts that I've seen already, so I decided to expand beyond the people I'm following to see what's new in TikTok. A post came up that caught my attention because it said Girl Scout Tragic Camping Trip. That was posted by @SerialKillerBlossoms. I really didn't want to watch the video because I didn't want to get paranoid and draw parallels to the possibility that something similar could happen to Grace on her current trip. But whoever coined the phrase "curiosity killed the cat" probably was thinking of some numbskull like me. Click on part 1 of the video that was posted 5 days ago, which showed the outside of a small yellow unmarked school bus. The creator of the video then showed the interior of the bus, which looked like a typical smaller bus with about 6 rows of seats. The camera person pointed to various video cameras installed throughout the bus. I wasn't sure the intent of this part 1 video. I didn't know if this bus was part of a crime that had happened in the past or just some type of converted recreational RV. My interest was waning, but I decided to click on part 2 anyways. This time the bus was moving and I could make out kids on the back of the bus. The video camera was by the driver and I couldn't make out much more than there was about 3 kids sitting on the bus. Then, with just a few seconds left on the TikTok post, a different camera angle is shown. As I'm sitting on my living room couch, I start to make out the faces of the kids. They appear to be middle school aged girls, and something inside tells me to look at when the video was posted, which was 3 hours ago. When I see girls that are around my daughter's age, I typically get a sense of empathy, because whatever's going to happen in this series of TikTok posts isn't going to be good, and I never want anything bad to happen to my daughter or anyone else's kid. But this time, my brain couldn't get over that hump because one of the girls looked spot on to Grace. However, I didn't want to commit to this theory, so I played part 2 again. Unfortunately, I can't fast forward the video, so I have to wait again for the last few seconds. As I'm waiting, my mind is going through that what ifs. Most importantly, what if that girl is actually my daughter? As the video nears to its end and zooms in on the girls, my worst Amanda's mother. Grace's mother, Sheila, used to deal with all the Girl Scout issues, so I'm limited with contact info. Luckily, I'm able to get into Sheila's email account, where I look for Girl Scout names and phone numbers. I find Amanda's name with her mother, Joy's phone number, so I quickly dial the number. Hello, Joy. Listen, this is Grace's father's dead. Are you aware of Carol taking the girls on a little yellow bus to the camping trip? No, Carol picked up Amanda in a blue Mercury Sable. Why do you think they're on a bus? Listen, you're on your cell phone right now, right? Yeah. I'm going to send you a TikTok video. Please watch the video and call me right back. Sure, send the video. As I sent the video, I didn't know what my next steps should be, but calling 911 was definitely going to happen in the near future. Within a couple of minutes, I get a return call from Joy. Dad, what is going on? Why is someone filming our daughters? Joy said in a hurried, frantic voice. I have no idea, but I don't have a good feeling about this. Did you try calling your sister Carol? My sister? She ain't my sister. She's Raquel's mother. Dad, that woman Carol told me that she's your sister when I met her before the camping trip. She told me that she's Raquel's mother. Oh my god, that woman isn't Raquel's mother, Joy said in a perplexed tone. Oh god, who is that psychopath? You know that Grace's mother, Sheila, used to go to all the Girl Scout meetings, so I'm not familiar with all of the parents. What do we do? I am going to call the police, I said. Okay, and I'll call Raquel's, I have a problem with the name, Raquel's mother. I've never called 911 before, so I'm nervous to begin with. So calling 911 makes me even more nervous. 911, what's your emergency? My daughter went on a Girl Scout camping trip with 2 other girls and a woman, Carol, who seemed to have lied about her identity. Okay, so what's the emergency? I came across a TikTok video of someone posting the 3 girls on a little yellow bus and not the blue Mercury Sable that Carol picked them up with. Okay, so what are the girls' ages and what are they doing in the TikTok posts? They're around 11 years old and they all look nervous and scared. Okay, so could they just be nervous from being away from home? I suppose, but this woman, Carol, lied to me and said that she's the mother of one of the girls, but she is not. She told one of the mothers that she's my sister, which obviously isn't true. Okay, so I'm going to send an officer over to your house because there's kids involved, but we are really having a really busy night with a lot of things going on, so it might take a while for the police to show up to your house. Wait, what? Why? I responded. Listen, sir, you haven't told me anything that sounded like your daughter or the other girls are being harmed, so we have to prioritize our available police officers. Listen, I didn't give that woman permission to videotape my kids, and I'm certainly these girls have been kidnapped, and have no idea where they're going, I say in an angered tone. Well, sir, I have a daughter that's in the Girl Scouts, and I have personally experienced when the leaders are dealing with multiple parents that sometimes things get lost in translation, so I wouldn't rush to judgment yet. All you have is your daughter on a TikTok video sitting on a bus going on a Girl Scout camping trip where she would understandably be nervous. Listen, my house address is 664 Mockingbird Lane. Hurry up and send someone over, I said in an angered tone as I hung up the phone. The video cameras on the bus are pointed in a direction so the viewer can't see the outside of the bus, so I don't frustrated with the 911 operator that I didn't even mention her username, but I doubt that would have made a difference, as Serial Killer Blossoms is a new account and only had the 4 videos posted. And there's not too many people who've viewed the video so far, which is good because I don't want them to be taken down for violating a TikTok policy. That I really don't have a good feeling about this. Should I drive to the Pongonos and do the Rat Squirrel campground? The thing is, you can, but I'm not sure if the bus is even going to that campground. The campground is less than 2 hours away, so they should have been there already. So what should we do? Joy asks me while I can hear crying over the phone. Who is this Carol person? I ask. I have no idea. When Macy got diagnosed with cancer, her story was blasted everywhere on Facebook, and the fire company even had a fundraising dinner for her to cover her medical expenses. So she could just be some random psychopath, and I came across Macy's story and figured, hey, this is my opportunity to kidnap some kids. What is her motivation? Is she trying to get TikTok famous? Getting TikTok famous for kidnapping girls and taking them on a camping trip, Joy said, while still crying. That's when it dawned on me, the naive mindset that Joy was having. I'm guessing she hasn't seen the countless videos of the horribleness this word has to offer, like the idea that there's people who kill just for some type of sick fun, like that eerie picture of the notorious serial killer John Wayne Gacy, who's dressed up as a clown for a kid's performance. Joy hasn't paid attention to the fact that the hashtags serial killer and hashtag a crime video were used in the video post, hence why they came to my video feed. If I thought that this Carol person was just videotaping them going camping, I would be a little mad. However, nothing about her actions or the video point to her future actions as being harmless. While I'm on the phone with Joy, I see part 5 has been posted. Listen, Joy, part 5 has been posted, so I'm going to hang up and watch it. I pray the girl's alright. Try to find any possible information about that Carol woman. Bye. I really didn't want to play Dr. Phil with Joy, as I know my daughter's fate rests in the hands of these video posts. I click on part 5, and besides the light from the video camera, I could tell that it's pitch black outside. The video camera pans the surrounding area as I see a thick forest with nothing more than trees. I haven't seen the girls yet, so my heart is beating double time. Camera eventually shows a makeshift campsite with a small fire burning. Based on the remoteness of the surroundings, I'm certain that the video is not of the Rat Squirrel campground and is probably in some very remote area based on the thickness of the forest. The camera turns its attention to the small fire pit and then to a small 2-person tent. I can hear the camera person breathing heavy as she walks towards the tent. Every single inch of me is experiencing absolute terror as I don't know what's inside the tent, because so far consume me. I was young and very poor, desperate to get out of my parents' shabby little house. They wouldn't miss me anyway. I was one of 7 kids they couldn't feed and much less care for. They probably didn't even remember me. Frank, my husband, was a little older than me, a college dropout that had a job as a mechanic. He wasn't ugly, not necessarily, but girls weren't throwing themselves on him either. He had a bit of a mean face too, with his dark, flat eyes and early onset wrinkles from frowning so much. He was a good kisser though, I'll give him that. We met after my father almost totaled his pickup truck, bringing it in for repair he couldn't really afford. In Frank, I saw an opportunity, and my need overpowered any feelings of wanting. We both just settled for each other, unconsciously knowing there wouldn't be anything better in our shitty little town. We got married as soon as I graduated high school, moving in together soon after that. Our wedding was about as romantic as you'd expect. Small town chapel with all the guests sitting on the groom's side. His lips tasted like greasy gas station taquitos when we kissed to seal the ceremony. I got a job waitressing and also helped stock at the supermarket a couple times a week. We were definitely struggling, but our cramped apartment was infinitely better than my childhood home. The days began to blend into each other, turning into months and then years. Those first years weren't so bad. They were monotonous, yes, but at least we mostly stayed out of each other's ways and focused on making enough to pay our bills. He was a heavy drinker, like my father, and his party days never really seemed to end. Most nights, he was too drunk to do anything but yell and pass out, with me cleaning up the mess behind him. Things went to shit when we found out I couldn't have children. We, and when I say we, I mean just him, had been trying for a while with no luck, and a trip to the doctor's brought us clarity. I was out of my control, obviously. While I was a little sad, I was infinitely thankful. It was a blessing in disguise. To him, these news were only a curse. He made sure to always remind me that I was a defective woman, that it had been a mistake to marry me, that Daddy had lost his prime years being with me. Blah, blah, blah. He was insufferable, but I did nothing and said nothing when he started sleeping with younger girls. At least he had left me alone when it comes to, well, that. I can't lie and say I haven't dreamed of having a daughter one day. Perhaps if I wound up somewhere much better in life, with a stable job that paid me well enough, and the unshaken courage to stand up for myself, I'd run away with my daughter and be the parent I desperately needed as a child. I would have named her Cassie, and it would have been us against the world. I was stupid enough to dare to hope. I knew that to bear its child and bring it into this world would be condemning it to a true life of suffering. I would never forgive myself for it. I cried often when he wasn't home, but after a while I ran out of tears. Life had never been lonelier. You may think I'm a coward, but I don't really care. I don't think I need to reiterate that I couldn't afford a fucking divorce, and still going to bed with bruises was better than sleeping in an alleyway reeking of piss. I still had some sense of self-worth. Still, I had my way of dealing with things, my own dirty little secret. During the day, I was the perfect wife, placid and quiet and always of service. I packed us lunch in the morning, along with extra strong coffee to nurse his hangovers. I kept the house impeccable, paid bills on time, and learned how to cover up the evidence of his violence on my body. I had deep teeth shaved in grooves on my wrists from holding in my screams, so I always wore long sleeves. I learned early that making any sort of noise would only make things worse for me. Nobody here suspected a thing, perhaps because they didn't care to look so closely. At night, I lay awake in my bed. I thought of carnage, all the violent ways I wanted payback, be it by my hand or not. In reality, I could never actually bring myself to get physically asked myself in those dreams. There was a creature once so like me, yet so different at the same time. At first it was hard for me to discern its features, but it became clearer with every night that passed. It had my hair, a dirty blonde that I always hated, but it was matted and falling off in chunks, exposing bald craters. It had no nose, or eyes, or ears, but the mouth took up most of the space needed for those jutting out like animals' maws. It was long and spindly, and when I dreamed of it crawling atop my husband, it reminded me of an archaic closing in on a fly. It was a beautiful nightmare. The sight of it felt familiar too, like it always had been there, an extension of my flesh that had been waiting for me to unearth it at the right time, a projection of an unfathomable strength and brutality I wished I possessed during daytime. So naturally, I latched onto it, addicted to the nocturnal wish of adrenaline. Nobody would take this carnage away from me. I began to wake up feeling more refreshed, more alive than I'd ever been, like I had been practicing lots of self-care and catching up on years' worth of rest. I was sleeping a lot better, getting through my day with ease, and a syrupy, sweet smile blasted on my face. Someone at work even told me I was glowing, asking if I was pregnant, to which I bluntly responded with, "I'm infertile." He didn't think it was funny, but the look on his face was priceless. Not that I cared what he or anyone else thought of me for that matter. Making friends wasn't really a priority, given that I was in survival mode 24/7. The crazy thing is, I didn't feel like I was alone anymore. There was an overwhelming sense of peace that had suddenly flooded through me. At the very back of my mind, there was an assuring voice that I couldn't quite hear, but still understood. The beast fed off my hatred and rage, deepening my thirst for revenge. At times, I thought perhaps I was losing it, but would that really be so terrible? I would have welcomed living a muddled reality where I had the upper hand. For 2 weeks, my husband even kept his hands off me. He avoided me at all cost and stopped berating me for every little thing. He slept away instead of bringing girls to the house. The bruises on my body were healing, turning a soft yellow and red against my pale skin. Things seemed to be okay for once. That was until one of the nights of his many shanks fed him some new drug, an amphetamine of sorts, and he came home cross-eyed and drooling like an animal. It was the middle of the night when he barged into our room, bellowing some nonsense that my barely awake mind couldn't comprehend. At the moment, I thought it more annoying than frightening. I got up and coaxed him into calming down, to get into the bed and get some sleep, but he wouldn't listen. He swung his big beefy arms as I tried to reach for him, smacking me across the face in the process. His pupils were wide and dark, swallowing his irises in a vortex of nothingness. His breath alone could light a raging fire with a single spark. If only I'd thought to get a lighter or a box of matches. What a more poetic way to go than by the cleansing of flame. For the first time in all our time together, I had enough. In a blind act of bravery, I shoved him, and he lost his balance, falling onto the mirror that hung on the door, and shattering it. When his mind registered what I had just done, he looked at me with an animalistic rage. He didn't even seem to notice his arm was bleeding, full of tiny cuts. We were both tense, our bodies coiled like springs about to snap. I felt powerful in that moment, but it was a feeling that quickly died down. He was the first to move, and he was so fast I was barely able to react. From 1 second to the next, he was holding a shard of glass and advancing on me. Once more, he had all control over me, snatching all that power I felt for a fraction of a second. He swung widely, screaming, "I'm going to kill you." All while I scurried backwards quickly, barely out of reach of the shard. In my haste, I tripped over a pillow and fell backwards for what felt like an eternity. much as a gasp. Or so I thought. I wasn't sure how long I was passed out for, but I woke up to a squelch and a acrid, coppery smell of blood. My vision swam, and I lay there on the floor as I tried to blink away the splitting headache. A movement on the bed caught my eye, and I stared hard, trying to make out what I was seeing. A long, thin arm sliced through the air, sharpening into a right angle as a bloody hand gripped the lower edge of the bed frame. My eyes followed the pale flash, and I saw pink, flesh-stained teeth, long and thin as fingers. On the wall, large crimson raw starch stains. The image was so familiar that I thought for a moment I was in a dream again, thought a more vivid one. The pain grounded me, and so did the memory of what had caused me to pass out. Breathing mechanically, I found some strength within me and slowly sat up. There was more blood under me at the back of my head and felt slick and warm. I placed a hand down to myself, upright, but instead of feeling the wooden floor, there was something tough and sinewy. The bed creaked and I looked up, my mind unable to process what was in front of me. The creature from my dreams smiled, which looked weird, given its elongated mouth. It was covered in blood and gore, but seemed intact. It had my husband pinned underneath its body, one long hand pressed against his chest. He was unconscious, bruised and battered, with a couple bites here and there. Besides the creature, something long uncoiled off the side of the bed and snaked on the floor, underneath my hand and still going. It was a sickening, pale, white, blue and purple in colour. One end seemed to be connected to the creature's stomach, while the other, instinctively, I reached a hand up towards the back of my head, where the edge of my nightstand hit my skull. The other end was firmly attached to the nape of my neck, going into a small Freya crater that should have been my demise. That's when it hit me. An umbilical cord. The creature had freed himself from the dark womb of my unconscious mind into reality. My dreams were a gestation every night, the creature growing stronger. I nourished it, petted, and even came to love it. I was a mother, despite what I had been told. I was not broken or useless or any of the things my husband had called me. I was the one in control of my life and my body. I moved and the creature followed. I raised a hand and it did the same. It mirrored me like a child learning a parent's mannerism, despite the fact that it had no eyes to see me. Love's blind, also they say. I knew this creature would do anything for me, and I, Fred. The creature helped me up and steadied me on my feet. Underneath, my husband groaned a little, yet remained unconscious. Both of us looked down at my husband's prone body, detached. The hindrance that stood between us and the life we wanted. Oh, how glorious it would be. Now that we had each other, the next step was to get rid of the obstacle. Hours later, there was no more Frank. At least, nothing dishonorable. We reenacted so many of those violent fantasies, but as much as I wanted to hear him scream, we couldn't alert the neighbours. His vocal cords were severed first, but the look of abject, mute horror and agony in his face was worth it. We left before morning came, catching a brand new day to start a new life. We needed substance for the road, so we ate and we drank as much as we could. By the time they found his bones, they would be bleached by the sun, poised on the bed pathetically, if not a little melancholic. I made sure no one would come looking for a while. It was a fair trade after all. One man's nightmare being a woman's dream. It's what I